Hello. I apologize for being late to covering these last few blog posts, but better late than never, I guess. So I'm going to be going over and talking about these two, about the different tasks or objectives in Deceit 2, as well as this one about Metasystems, progression, and a couple of the new terrors. I won't be going over this developer spotlight as it's not really about the game itself, it's more about the dev team working on the game. There is one little bit from it that I will show, but it's not too important, so let's get into this. So this blog post here gives a little bit of the insight behind the task of the Asylum map. The Asylum map is going to be the only map on launch, and it seems like they're committed to making tasks more integrated into the map itself, rather than just a bunch of different boxes all around with the same type of objectives that you can do over and over. They all seem unique, and it gives me hope for maps in the future to all have maybe some of the same tasks, but most of them being unique, something that Deceit 1 hasn't really had. We start off here with a little excerpt, talking to like the game master and like why let them escape, and he likes to give the test subjects hope. The only hope of escaping the ritual is via escape doors found throughout the map. This is going to be the innocence win condition, other than just voting the infected out. The door requires a key, which can be obtained by the peddler with enough souls collected from everyone. So basically how the tasks work is that there's these souls, these lost souls, that get attracted and go into these objects around the map. And the peddler wants to help put them to rest. So we'll give you items in exchange for you helping put those souls to rest. And that's basically like the lore part of how the item system works. If we're just talking about it from like gameplay sense, you do the objectives, get souls, and then buy items. And yeah, once the map is cleared of souls, the escape key is yours. So yeah, once the players do enough tasks over time, they will be able to get the escape key, which they can use to start opening the door and put pressure on the terrors to try and stop them once and for all. By using Second Sight, you can locate trapped souls and complete a task to free them. It was shown previously in a case file, but you have this like implant in your hand, and using that you can use your Second Sight ability, and that basically just lets you see objectives that are near you by like looking at the souls that are trapped inside. This is one of the main things that you're going to be doing as innocent, and infected as well, just going around the map and doing objectives, doing little tasks. But you still have to make sure that you're watching out for who's actually infected around you, and not just focusing completely on the tasks, because you're not going to know who it is, and by the time it comes down to it, you're not going to know who to vote. In the alpha playtest, they had radios that needed tuning, safes that needed cracking, and clocks that needed the time setting. They're further along in development now and want to show the different tasks that are actually in the map. I'm unsure if these old tasks are still going to be there. I'm sure they will. Those kind of seem like the tasks that are less tied to the map and more just general tasks. We will see once that comes along. So yeah, and as you can see in these pictures, there's the radio. So yeah, and then you tune the radio, make sure it finds the correct frequency. Pretty self-explanatory. The clock task, you see that there's this big clock in the back, and you have to match the time that's on the clocks. And it shows a picture of the safe further in the blog post. Yeah, you just, again, pretty self-explanatory. Keep turning it, find the correct code. Yeah, let's take a look at some of the new objectives that they have made that are more integrated into the Asylum map itself. Cleaning up the kitchen. Abandoned for years, the kitchen at Millhaven Asylum is now home to an infestation of cockroaches. To capture the soul, you have to squash the cockroaches and follow the soul as it hops from bug to bug until it's finally freed. So yeah, you can already tell like these objectives are going to be more fun, more interactive than those that you might have seen in like Deceit 1. Like there's objectives where you have to just flip levers or shoot 3 targets. So yeah, all of those were just like kind of ordinary. I'm glad to see them taking this step in this direction. Next up, we have Checkmate in the Rec Room. To free the soul for the peddler, you will just have to find the right move to make a checkmate. I wonder if it'll give you any hints to like the people who don't know how chess works. Or it might be pretty simple chess, but again, a pretty interesting task. We have faulty taps in the bathroom. In the bathroom, you need to turn off the sink taps in the right pattern to release the soul. Get it in the wrong order and it will reset. I do wonder how you find out the right pattern. I hope it's not just trial and error. Or that if it is trial and error, it's not too many steps, too many taps, so you're not stuck there all day. In the dormitory, they had this slightly creepy painting of a girl, made creepier by its missing details. Find the missing toy somewhere in the dormitory, and return it to the painting to complete the image and free the soul. This one has an interesting dynamic. Seems a lot less based in reality, but that makes sense with a lot of what the game has been trending towards with its themes. And then we have Poker Face in the security room. To pass the hours, the security staff might have played card games, and now you must too. A simple game of pairs will unlock this soul from its captivity. So yeah, now that's another, just like the chess, it's just an actual game that you can play. And like I said before, there's one thing I wanted to show from this developer spotlight, and that was just this picture. It looks like there's also going to be a toilet task where you might have to flush in the right order or something like that. It says it's a work in progress of the flush away task to be found in the asylum bathroom. So yeah, not too big. It doesn't give us details on how it works, but just a work in progress screenshot that I felt was relevant enough to show with the other tasks. So yeah, I'm very happy with the direction that they're taking tasks in and making them a lot more fun and interactive, as well as making them feel like they belong in the places that they're in. Good work to the dev team. Next up is probably the more exciting blog post that I wanted to get into. This one concerns Metasystems and progression. There's a good bit to talk about here about how the game will work outside of matches that you'll be playing. Something that I've been wondering about for a while because they haven't really addressed it before, or not very much in detail at least. So yeah, we have Tobias here talking about the creative focus behind the Metasystem and progression. They want to make sure that every session that you're playing makes it feel like you're making meaningful progress, and making sure that that is a strong basis so that they can continue to build on it with future content. They say that they've considered a range of options for unlockables, like unlockable executions for terror kills, but things like that people might not be happy with because it might out you if you're the only person that has that certain execution. And they say that they eventually found a workaround for things like this, and understand that the decisions like that can have huge ramifications and lead to people being frustrated. So they're being vigilant about that, but also making sure that you have something that you can unlock that you'll be looking forward to. So there's 4 categories of unlocks that they're confident with that it will for sure be in the game. Items. There are much more items in Deceit 2 than in the original game. Those have been covered in other blog posts, but yeah, there is a ton of new fun items that they're going to be adding. These are partially going to be tied to unlocks outside of the game. They are not going to bombard you with all the items at once. These are going to be something that you can unlock over time, and they say that you'll unlock them fairly rapidly through your initial sessions. Again, I assume just so you aren't completely overwhelmed with the huge selection of items that there are, and you can get to know how each of them works little by little before you get into mixing all the strange and more complex ones together. Secondly, mutations. Terrorists can all have powerful mutations that allow them to react to unique situations as the game goes on. This is something that they planned for Deceit 1, but they never actually made it into the game as they shifted their focus to making the sequel. I assume that they took a lot of the ideas that they originally had and implemented them into Deceit 2, so I'm interested in seeing how that works. Another game that I play often is Video Horror Society, and I think that they do mutations perfectly. They have different options for the monsters that gives you maybe a percentage more of this ability, but it has a drawback, like it might have a higher cooldown. Things like that I'm looking forward to. I hope it is more like that system where the mutations are like a side grade and not as much like 100% this is much better than all the other ones and you have to use this all the time to win. But we probably won't see too much on that for a little bit. So I'm interested in seeing how they implement that. Next up is roles. Roles add another layer beyond the innocent infected split. They're randomized at the start of the game, with each role adding a unique way to influence the game. This actually surprised me, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. That roles are something that you can unlock. As you might have seen before in the case files, they already have a public idea for one role, which is the healer, who can pick one person before each travel to the in-between. And if that person gets executed by the terrors, they will be saved by the healer. So it's kind of like a doctor or that type of role if you've ever played like Town of Salem or Mafia. But it seems like there's going to be a decent amount of other roles that are going to be added, and it would make sense to have them behind unlocked so that you, as a new player, can focus just on the innocent and infected and figuring out how the basics work before you can start worrying about how new roles are added into the mix and change the dynamic. I do like that, and I think it's a smart move. Then of course we have the cosmetics, which are the cool looking items and outfits that you can flex to show how awesome you are. They are linking cosmetics to in-game events to ensure they feel like part of the world and not just a scattering of random ideas. So yeah, it doesn't seem like they're making completely random choices with the type of cosmetics that they're making. So they probably won't be too outlandish. Though some of the legacy outfits that are going to get added might not make too much sense in the world, but that is what the community voted on. So we will 100% be seeing those get added to the game. And they are keeping what I thought was the most unique part about their progression out of game. Tokens will be one of our main in-game currencies, awarded at the end of each game based on what your contributions to the match. Even small actions will accumulate towards your post-match token count. Things like completing tasks and interacting with points of interest, as well as even voting out an infected player. So make sure you're doing your part in-game to make sure you're getting the most reward out of it. You can spend these tokens in the booth. I assume it's going to be similar to the original game, but it might have like different animations. It might have a little bit different functionality, but I love the loot booth. I opened up thousands of tokens and made an entire guide showing all the animations and stuff for the loot booth. So I'm excited to make a sequel to that video, I guess, whenever Deceit 2 comes around. And yeah, they said that there's going to be a healthy amount of unlocks available on release to keep you occupied. And they also give us information about their update schedule, which is very nice to know. They're going to have minor, medium, and major updates. Minor updates will happen bi-weekly. We'll cover bug fixes, tweak balance issues, add some quality of life changes, as well as adding some custom options for your lobbies. Medium updates will be more unlock focused, adding new items, roles, and cosmetics every month. Then major updates will be more substantial, released every 3 months or so, and we'll have a big story-based event focused around a new map and or a new terror each time. The events are going to be narrative-based, again, more centered around making an actual story around it, exploring more of the world and expanding the story of the Game Master, his mysterious benefactors, and even the worlds beyond the in-between. Based on all the lore that they've done in the forums as well as sprinkled throughout these blog posts, pretty much all across their website, I am confident that they'll be able to make these story-based events very well made. But as if that wasn't enough, they are also giving a sneak peek to 2 of the new terrors that will be coming after release, presumably with DLC. First up, there's the Weretorn, a clan of werewolves who were until recently held captive in an underground research facility under a dense forest. The Game Master has given them freedom and revenge against the scientists who held them captive for their loyalty and a continuous flow of blood for his own experiments. Here is an awesome look at the new and improved werewolf. Again, this is just concept art, but it's much more terrifying, much different of a creature, and doesn't look like any of the other terrors that We're in like Deceit 1, and it doesn't even look like the experiment terror that was already shown to us. And then they have the Vespals, which are like the Hadleys, which is the family that performed the original ritual that led to the events of Deceit 2. The Vespals were an aristocratic family of high esteem, who also dabbles in the unscrupulous and the occult. Having gained knowledge of their dark practices, the Game Master deceived the Vespals, cursing their bloodline with vampirism. Their unquenchable thirst for blood keeps them subservient to the Game Master, who has plenty of victims for the Vespals to feast upon in exchange for their reluctant gifts. So yeah, this is the new vampire terror, who looks much more like a normal vampire bat, which I can say the original vampire terror in Deceit 1 doesn't really look too much like that, other than just having wings. And there's also this vampire bat next to it. It has me wondering about its abilities, and if it might be able to turn into a bat for one of them. Same for the werewolf, if it has the ability to be on all fours, something that the werewolf was lacking in the original game, which I think would make a lot more sense for it, being a werewolf. But we will have to see whenever those concept arts become reality, and they show us after release. So yeah, we can expect more information on the future maps and terrors in coming months. And if you have any ideas for other terrors, go to the Discord. Give them your thoughts on the suggestions channel. So yeah, this post had a lot of content that I wasn't expecting. And we're getting to that point where a lot of the elements of the game have already been shown. Maybe not through actual gameplay, but we can paint a pretty good picture of them. Which, while I'm wrapping this up, leads me to talking about the next video that I'm going to be doing. Some of y'all might have already watched. I have this everything that we know so far about Deceit 2 video. And it makes me pretty upset that that video is so outdated and so many people are watching it, which of course I'm thankful for. But they're not getting the full picture, especially if they're watching it now, like 6 months later, maybe even longer than that. And then we only had like unconfirmed things said from the devs and an unofficial live stream, as well as I think 1 or 2 blog posts. So yeah, my next video talking about Deceit 2 is going to be an updated version of that. I'm going to try to work a lot harder on that video than I do with these blog post ones. Trying to compile all the information into a good script that hopefully doesn't make it too long. I don't want to end up with another like 40+ minute video. So yeah, hopefully I can finish and release that soon. If any of y'all are looking forward to that, I recommend staying tuned. But otherwise, thank you all for watching.
Once held high up in heaven's own nest, I was sent back down and disturbed in my rest. Rebel